keep talking, please, that would be great.
Okay. Where hotel are you in, sir?
I'm in the Hyatt in downtown Milwaukee. Pretty nice. Lots of nice restaurants around here. I've enjoyed it.
Good.
What room number, Rumsa?
Huh?
What room number?
Oh, well, I give you my social security number while I'm at it.
I've only been to Milwaukee once, and it was fine. It was fine. It was just fine.
And on that note, I want to welcome everybody to the world according to that man, Benjamin Jeremy Stein. We welcome you all back. The other night, we were all a little scared. YouTube was having major uploading issues, but it is sort of scary that our first thought is that they are pulling the plug on us mid-episode. But there were major streaming issues that YouTube was having. And we thank you for putting up with that the other night. And of course, thank you for downloading the podcast at record pace. It's been amazing. Remzo will give you all the details and give me 30-second breaks tonight. And it's so glad to see Remzo at first base. But I want to welcome everybody to the world according again to Ben Stein. We're joined tonight from the Media Action Network. America's Ken LaCourte. I was trying to think of something, Ken, and I just, my brain.
I'll go with America's. That works.
America's Ken LaCourte. Welcome back, as always, sir. Tell people in one sentence what Media Action Network does.
We punch back at the liberal media instead of just bitching about it. But tonight, we're just bitching about it.
That's and of course, we're joined by the Bat, Remzo Martinez from
Batman.
On the Run. Sorry, Ben?
The Batman.
You know, it's so funny. Like prior to going on air, I was wearing a red tie-dye shirt, and Ben thought it was my skin, and he had a point because when I lean back and you look at the color of the wall, it looks like I was a leper. So I grabbed the first shirt out of my drawer, and what do I grab? I grab Batman. So
Excellent.
The way the world works, just gotta love it.
You've gone from the cat to the bat. So Remzo, welcome back as always. And I encourage everybody to download his podcast, On the Run with Remzo Martinez. And you'll tell me about the other one. I can never remember the name. But of course, this show
podcast, baby.
Sorry?
Second Print Comics podcast.
There we are. And of course, the show wouldn't be complete without America's humble servant, actor, writer, provocateur, saint, sinner, lover, father, grandfather, husband, one of my former shoe salesmen, but of course, Dr. Benjamin Jeremy Stein. We salute you, sir. Welcome.
But does he take Medicaid? But do you take Medicaid?
I've told you a million times I don't take any insurance. I don't take any patients. I am my own patient. I am the only patient I take.
I have to humbly disagree with you. I think you do take patients, just a different type. But I want to start the show. John Milley
I don't know.
For,
what is your doctorate in?
Law.
Okay.
They told us after about 30 years after I graduated from Yale Law School, they said that although we were given degrees that said Bachelor of Laws, we could refer to ourselves as Doctor of Laws.
So there we are.
And I've got many honorary doctorates at colleges and universities where I've spoken. I have so many of them, I've lost track of how many I have, but each one of them is precious.
We all have the same thing. We just don't like to brag about it. But if you want to brag, go ahead. But John Milley is
only Dr. Remzo Martinez in non-emergency situations.
Yes, that's exactly what I've said. And I've had this argument in a previous relationship where I had that argument where I said, if the problem with calling yourself doctor, if there is an emergency on the plane, I will take anybody but a doctorate in something. Okay, give me like an engineer before you give me a doctor. But I want to get
wait a minute. Jill Biden is a doctor.
That's my point.
And I believe at one point early in the primaries, she told a president, our now glorious president, Mr. Biden, to go F himself, something which I believe would be considered impossible, but she is a doctor, so there you are.
I believe you're confusing the story. I believe that's what she said about Kamala Harris.
Oh, right. You're right. Sorry. I'm sorry. You're totally right.
But she probably said it to him too. Let's just cover all bases.
She's a doctor, so she probably knows what people are capable of.
Okay, but I want to get right into this. John Milius in his 1984 film wrote, "In our time, no foreign army has ever occupied American soil until now." And to paraphrase the great conservative filmmaker John Milius, in our time, Ben Stein, no domestic foreign ideology has ever occupied the American House of Representatives until now.
Well, I would just say, if you're talking about foreign ideologies, I don't think they dominate the House of Representatives, but they certainly play an outsized part. And the Democrat Party has been cowed and terrified and humiliated and made to look like little pussies by the so-called squad, who largely, among other horrible things, support terrorists. So these are sad times for America, and I think we had quite a lively conversation about this before the show started. We sort of noodle about this for hours before the show starts. What we're seeing is not only a political attack on America, but a cultural attack in which Sharia law and various Muslim restrictions on people, especially women, are starting to be accepted in America. Scary.
Oh, what say you, Ken LaCourte?
Yeah, no, look, it's we've seen in the past few years, it seems like there's always these crazy notions of true socialism, Marxism, all the isms, all the various ideologies. We've always, or at least, for the past 15, 20 years, we've seen them in various degrees on college campuses, right? They're always kind of burbling there. There's always the one dude, who teaches at the Hispanic Collegiate Center, and he doesn't know if he's a she and this and that. I mean, there's always something, right? And Marxist ideology has had a minority position on American campuses, but a continual one. What we saw happen in the last 3-4 years was that far left ideology break into the mainstream. And I don't know, I'm not exactly sure why it happened now. Why is, there have been Marxist professors on campus since Ben Stein was a kid. Why is that stuff now?
Not really, since I was a young adult, but not since I was a kid.
Well, certainly pre-World War II.
I don't. Well, if they were, they kept pretty. No, you're right. I apologize. You're right. You're right, Ken. You're right, and I'm wrong. You're right.
So we've always had them out there. So I'm not 100% convinced and clear in my mind why in the last 3, 5, 7 years have some of the crazy left things burst into mainstream.
I think
because they have hitched their wagon to the very popular star of false, phony, fake allegations of racism, and people are afraid to challenge those allegations in any way, shape, or form, even though they're completely false.
No, I think, but Ken raises a great point. And Ken, I was actually thinking about this today as I was driving down the hill, and I was thinking, Trump exposed people for who they were. He drove them so crazy that they couldn't mask anymore, from the media to academia to Washington. They couldn't. He lit their brains on fire that they couldn't control anymore, and they showed their true colors. But what I'm saying right now, it goes even deeper, and what Ben was talking about, Remzo, goes even deeper. This isn't socialism and Marxism that has invaded the House of Representatives. There is Sharia law that has invaded the House of Representatives ideology with this squad going on right now. And that's a frightening thing, what we have as elected officials.
Well, go, Ramsey. I'm sorry. You can go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I mean, really, has Sharia law has it?
Well, I'm told by a very, very smart friend who has a daughter in, I don't know, 8th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I don't know what exactly. And she says that there are Muslim kids who are yelling at Christian kids about covering themselves and so forth, and being more attuned to Sharia law. And this is in Golden, Southern California, and an area that used to be famous for its large presence of retired and active police.
So, Remzo, I might have gone a little too far with it.
I don't know if it's really in going on in Congress. I mean, here's the thing, and we're seeing this right now with Joe Biden. Is Joe Biden doing some pretty dumb and terrible things? Absolutely. But I think what we should be glad is that we have a government run by ultimately incompetent people. We thought that we were dealing with like Dr. Evil from Austin Powers. But right now we're dealing with people who we gave the keys to the car, but they don't even know where the car is. And Joe Biden doesn't know what the car is. And this is the thing about, modern day progressivism and everything else. All these alliances that they have, once they actually do achieve power, they're not even really good at working with each other. We're seeing this with the Squad going after Biden and moderates going after Sanders and all this other stuff. You can't have a pro-gay crowd and a pro-Sharia law crowd, because while they might hate all the conservatives and all the right-wingers and stuff, what they realize is when they're left alone with each other, they actually don't like each other that much. That's why gay pride.
Have you seen the picture of the guys and gals and others with the Queers for Palestine? It's kind of like,
it's so hilarious. It's like promoting the people that would throw them off of rooftops.
Yeah, it's like
that's exactly that's
Thanksgiving. It's very weird.
It's like right. Coexist sticker. It's like when you see some of the symbols next to each other, it's like, no, those things don't coexist.
Right. And the irony that you both bring up, Ben Stein, I don't know if you saw the story, but in the beginning of the week, the gay pride, they don't let Israelis into some of these parades, but also they didn't allow the police into the LGBTQ pride parade in New York City. They banned the police. And
how can you ban the police?
Well,
they banned the marching police, the gay police who would march in their parade.
How can that? That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah.
That is literally insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
This is what we're dealing with. And I think I'm grateful for what Remzo brought up, Ben Stein. He's right. The saving grace of America right now, what Remzo brought up, is their dislike of each other. That's the saving grace, that at the end of the day, these groups don't necessarily mesh, but they are an extremely dangerous group. To think that there are House measures passed to not loan Israel money, to not loan Israel weapons, but to sell Israel weapons. There was a bill posed, Ben, is to ban that is beyond something in my wildest dreams I ever thought I'd see.
Wait a minute, that bill passed?
No, but I'm saying that a bill was proposed.
Oh, but that kind of bill is proposed all the time. That's been going on for a long, long time. So that's not new. But I think, if I may respectfully say so, what I see on the streets of my beloved Los Angeles and the streets of other cities that I see on the television is a cultural attack on America. I hope and pray we're a long way away from the Muslims controlling the government. And I mean, the fact that we have 4 or 5 mentally ill Muslim people in the Congress is very, very bad, but it's not as bad as the fact that we have roaming gangs of Palestinian youth beating up Jews on the sidewalks and in restaurants, even of fashionable parts of LA. That is the Sturmabteilung of the Nazi Party, only Muslims, and the media doesn't even touch them.
No, it's I mean, since it started in Israel, Ken LaCourt, 500% anti-Semitism up is in the UK. Now, my bigger question is, what is it? And I'll ask you this, Ken. I'll ask you this, Remzo, because why does the UK suffer from such vicious anti-Semitism?
Because they have so many Arabs, my dear friend, and have for a long time.
But the Labour Party?
But France was
the Labour Party has been left-wing and very, very, very attached to the extreme Muslims for a long time. That is not new.
But most of
Nyron Bevan was head of the Labour Party in the late 40s. They were viciously anti-Israel, even at Israel's founding.
But I mean, isn't just among non-Islamic Europeans, isn't anti-Semitism a lot higher there than?
Oh yeah, well, it has been forever. Anti-Semitism is a basic feature of human personality and of human history. My wife, the goddess Alexandra, whom we all know and worship, she has posited, she's not a Jew, she has posited that anti-Semitism is so basic that it might as well be a genetic DNA events.
I mean, quite possibly it could be Remzo, but that's, there are a lot of us that are walking around Remzo right now that feel like we're open targets. It's amazing that my mother has to say to me, please carry around pepper spray, because in Los Angeles, we can't have a concealed weapon. And I would like everybody to know we are majorly understaffed in the LAPD. It does not have enough representation in the city of Los Angeles. So Remzo, that's
Beverly Hills Police Department is very overstaffed, and they're great people.
Right. They need to share it with the rest of us, because the rest of the rest of LA is very understaffed.
Ben, give to what we need from what you can.
Yes, please give us some of your Beverly Hills popo. Pass them on to the Valley.
They don't want to leave Beverly.
Of course, because their salaries are. Ben, as you said, it's a beautiful police station. But on that note, if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. This is a topic that is very upsetting. It upsets me how much it upsets the older generation. It upsets me how much it upsets people like my mother, people in my family that are watching things that they never thought in their wildest dreams would happen on American soil. But Remzo, if you could please tell people where they could find us.
Make your life easier. Go ahead and hit that subscribe bell above, so that way you get a notification whenever the show goes live. You're on YouTube, and while you're at it, not a fan of YouTube, even though you're YouTube right now, the deception thing. Go ahead and watch us on Rumble. You can go ahead and find us on Rumble at The World According to Ben Stein. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a beat in the car, at the gym, on the walk with the dog, while you're taking a shit. Who knows? You can listen to us everywhere. And if you need Ben Stein in your life a little bit more, go ahead and subscribe to our newsletter, benstein.substack.com. That's benstein.substack.com. Ben, I had a friend text me the other day. He's like, I like listening to the podcast. It's what I listen to whenever I go ahead and sit on the toilet. And I'm like, that's a very intimate moment in your life, and I'm glad I get to spend it with you there.
The podcast is the new magazine.
Sharing, sir.
Look, Reader's Digest made $1 billion by making their magazine small enough that it could fit on the back of your toilet.
So did TV Guide.
Yes.
And on that note, we've gone into the toilet. Welcome back to The World According to Ben Stein. Remzo, what's really funny about that whole thing was that you were breaking up, but that part came out perfectly clear.
You know, when he started breaking up for me was the second he said, and I don't know about YouTube, and it went, blip, 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 blip. It was like someone stood there and then just hit pause on you. It was hilarious.
It is absolutely amazing. I want to get into something because Fox News ran this great headline tonight, and we were talking about this before the show, which was that Biden is plagiarizing. He's taking credit for the peace deal. And I had said to the supposed peace deal, and I had said to Ben, and this is a true story, Ken and Remzo, Judah Friedman was not the greatest student, and I had to go to summer school. And I was in summer school, and I might have been the only Jew in there, and quite possibly one of the only white people in there. And as what it was, I forget the test you had to pass. We had to take a test, and I remember a bunch of the people were trying to cheat off me. And I looked at them and I said, "Do you realize I'm in summer school with you? I failed the same courses as you did. So I'm probably not the best person to cheat on." And as Joe Biden is plagiarizing and taking Ben Stein credit for this supposed peace deal, be careful what you plagiarize, because the odds of peace are not great.
Well, I don't know how many of you remember that when he first started campaigning for president, long ago, it was found that one of his main speeches, in fact, perhaps his speech in which he introduced his campaign, was taken word for word from a British labor rights leader, word for word. And at the time, he was embarrassed about it. The media seems to have forgotten about it completely. Needless to say, had it been Trump,
it was a big reason why he pulled out of the campaign. The Neil Kinnock speech.
Neil Kinnock, right? Neil Kinnock, right? Thank you.
And then later they looked at some issues he had in law school, and
yeah. And I think he graduated last in his class at a law school, which is not a famous law school by any means. And yet there he is because he checks all the boxes.
He also said he went to a school that he didn't actually go to.
Where was that? What was that?
It was some college that he said that he had gone to that he actually.
I think it was a predominantly black college, and he said he had gone to it. And I think it was a predominantly black college on the eastern shore of Chesapeake Bay, which, by the way, is one of the most beautiful places in the world. The eastern shore of Chesapeake Bay.
And makes great fried chicken. But Ken, this is what we're sitting with right now, running this country. And we were discussing this the other night. There is so much confusion going on right now. We are getting so many mixed messages. And I think, I'm not just, listen, when another party, Ken, is in power, we disagree. We have issues. It's always the case. But right now, can you tell me with all certainty the mask rules going on right now, Ken? Do you know?
I mean, look, we just have to be fine with a certain level of incompetence, and I guess in a weird way, I'm comforted by their incompetence, because they want to take the country in a fundamentally different direction of how we govern ourselves than I philosophically believe. So if they were really, really competent, we'd be fucked even more. The fact that they're there, he goes out, his wife's
Great point.
He's saying, I'm trying to, he's listening to his earbud, and Kamala's running around measuring the drapes and saying, hey, Joe, how you doing? Hoping he has a heart attack. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better Democratic administration than we have right now.
You raise a great point, and that's
because there's a lot of they're not doing anything I like. They're just doing the things that I dislike. They're doing them poorly.
Ken, you raise a great point, and it's what Remzo was saying before. I mean, you both raised this excellent point, Remzo, which is their keystone, their ineptitude is the saving grace.
Yeah, I mean, there's a joke about the feminist picnic. All these feminist women show up, and then they realize that nobody made the sandwiches, so they starve and die. So it's they starve and die. So it's one of those situations where it's like they get what they want. They finally have what they want, but they don't actually know how to do it. And a lot of them don't want to do it. And that's why I try and remind a lot more of my more conspiracy-minded friends. It's like it would take a lot of really well-coordinated, intelligent people to carry through these extremely elaborate, secretive plans that we all just happen to know about. But they're also the same people that couldn't get the Obamacare website to work. And they're also the same people that screw up on a regular basis. And then they're like, nuh-uh, you're the dumb one. It's almost why I think that movie Ideological is more of like a cautionary tale than a comedy. Because we just need to look around and realize sometimes that our fellow man is just really dumb.
Now look, but before we break our arms patting ourselves on the back, let's not forget 2016. I mean, we had every lever of government in the federal government. We had Trump, we had Congress, we had Senate.
Yeah, but we didn't have the media. We did not have the media.
We did not have the media, and we had the Supreme Court, and we had most state houses, and we didn't do shit. I mean, the Trump administration did a lot of things that they could unilaterally, but they couldn't even build a wall. They couldn't.
Ken, you raise a good point.
They did do a lot of simplistic things that it was like, dudes, it was like Boehner was back. Just, hey.
But sir, with all due respect, they were facing the iron wall of the mass media, which
doesn't matter.
They still had the mass media in the final analysis. They're still in the passenger seat, and when you control the levers of governor, when you control the levers of power, you got your hands on the wheel.
But Ken, you raise a good point. But in defense, the Republicans' biggest issue, I guess both parties have these issues, is a lot of them, we could call them rhinos, or you could call them whatever you want. Has been a problem in the Republican Party. First of all, let's be real. They only had like 52 senators. So it wasn't like they had like 65 senators. They had they
have more than the Democrats have now.
No, you're completely right. And I wish they would have done more. I wish they would have worked on certain things. Time passed. They haven't. They didn't do it. They were incompetent, whatever you want to call them. We didn't have the right leadership in there. I always say, I wish, Ben Stein, that President Trump had the people he had in the last year. I wish he had them in the first year. I wish Pompeo was with him in the first year. I wish these people that he knew he could trust were with him the first year. And sadly, hindsight being what it is, but I think Ben brings the greatest point of the media. The media is really hard to get past.
Yeah, they whip up the public. They whip up the people in the Congress. I mean, yes, if the people in the Congress are smart, if they've got their calculators, they should be able to defeat the media. But I can tell you, as a person who's worked inside the White House, if you're getting a constant deluge of nasty anti-Nixon or nasty anti-Trump propaganda every day, headline after day, newscast with that pompous ass Walter Cronkite, day after day, it's hard to get past it. It's hard.
And just to put it in perspective, Ken, there were, I believe people could check the exact number, but there were 35 members of the House that voted for the January 6th crucifixion. 35 Republicans voted in favor.
Incredible. That is
in favor of this. So while you say we had the House, remember there were 35 people, Ken, that have their own agendas.
That is really shameful.
But that's the same issue that the Democrats have now.
They almost always vote party line, Ken.
Yeah, the Democrats are far more disciplined. Why it is, there's something so deeply psychological going on here about why people are left wing. I mean, for example, there is something deeply sick about the fact that American young people who I assume want to have active sex and drug lives like all young people do, would be in favor of Sharia law, which would make them all chained to their chastity belts until they got married.
Nobody's in favor of Sharia law.
Bomber. Say again?
Nobody's in favor of Sharia law. Not even the Muslims.
They say they are, though. They say they are, and some people are fooled.
People say a lot of stuff.
But Ken, I want to get back to that point, Ramza. I don't know where you went. Maybe you went to treat the bat or the cat. Sorry?
Remember, he's a doctor. Don't forget he's a doctor.
Remzo, the big difference, I don't know if you heard this part, was that, 35 members of the House, and one of them, I swear to you, said the reason he voted for the 9/11 crucifixion to go ahead was because he wanted to question Pelosi about the security. You have 35 Republicans, and this is a major issue that Remzo, that conservatives have, or the Trump base has, is these 35. You can never trust Republicans in the House to always go along with each other. Democrats.
I want to get back for a second, though, because we were talking about the media earlier. My favorite elected official in my lifetime was Congressman Ron Paul from Texas. After the 2012 election, he was walking through the hallways and somebody asked him, "What do you think about everyone on TV talking about all these bills you voted against, all this other stuff?" And Ron Paul looked at them and he said, "Well, I just don't watch TV." And he always managed to do that. He did his job. He was good for his district, and nationally, he was universally looked at as either a hero or a villain, depending on what side of the aisle you stepped on. But when it comes to this, I also get kind of tired sometimes because Republicans always come up with excuses for their own inadequacies. When we look at the past 20 years, other than what Trump was able to do, which he does not get enough credit for, what were Republicans?
You're complete, Remzo, brilliant point.
Let me finish, please. What were Republican accomplishments? Medicaid Part D expansion and the Iraq War. And FICE and bank bailouts and so much more. The idea that Republicans have been really good at anything, it just needs to get to the point where it's like it's not about left versus right. It's about people who want power versus the rest of us.
Sir, Remzo, sir, with great respect, they're in your no longer flesh-colored T-shirt. Bank bailouts were a good thing, not a bad thing. They saved America from being in a really genuine depression. You wouldn't have wanted to grow up in a genuine depression, my young friend. Second, if I may say so, Trump did a lot. Trump recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
He didn't say no.
I said Trump did a lot of stuff he never gets credit for.
He was defending Trump.
Oh, God bless you.
Yeah, no, I was defending Trump. Yeah. I was saying other than the one man who essentially led through executive fiat, because Republicans as a party accomplished nothing in Congress or the Senate It was
How
all
many,
from
how many
using
times?
executive order.
How many times do I have to tell you that my friend and former boss now at the Rainbow Bridge, waiting for King Timoho, Pasha, and Vicky, his dogs, Mr. Nixon said your basic Republican in the House of Representatives is not fit to be dog catcher. And he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's completely right. And Remzo raises a great point, and it goes back to what Ken said. They had control. They wanted it. Trump ran on a bunch of things that when they had control, obviously, we got the thumbs down from McCain, but they didn't have a viable thing to replace Obamacare. They still don't. Everybody would always say how brilliant and genius Ben Sass, we've learned that he's a complete ass, is, but he was going to come up with this thing to save medical for people, and he had these plans. They didn't have plans. Okay, they had no plans. And I think it's very evident from the first 2 years of Trump's presidency that the Republican House literally had no plans. But on that note, Remzo, if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. Remzo, please tell people where they could find us.
If you didn't know we
I
had
like your new haircut, by the way, I'd like to tell you that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. If you didn't know we had a podcast, you do know now. Go ahead and check us out on Google Play, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can find podcasts across Al Gore's amazing internet. Subscribe and leave a 5-star review. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit the bell icon above so you get notifications here on YouTube whenever we go live. And if that's not any better, benstein.substack.com. That's benstein.substack.com.
God bless you for doing it. And as a doctor, I will give you a free consultation for doing it.
And on that note, I want to welcome everybody back to The World According to Ben Stein. We're joined tonight by Remzo on the Run Martinez. Check out his podcast
at a hotel in Milwaukee where they have make very good beer, I'm told, although I don't drink alcohol, but I'm told that.
And of course, there's Arnold's from Happy Days, and of course Ken LaCourte from the Media Action Network. Remzo brought something up, Ben, and I want you to get into it because I don't think there's anybody better that could talk about, because there are a lot of because Remzo is a follower of somebody like Ron Paul, and Ron Paul obviously, and you see differently about the banking crisis. Why don't you tell people your thoughts on 2008 a little bit? Because there's a lot of
my thoughts are Remzo's thoughts.
Your thoughts, Ben.
I think when what's the brothers one that's failed?
Lehman Brothers.
Lehman started to fail. It was obvious to every economist, Republican, Democrat, everybody, that if they failed, there was going to be terrible trouble and the economic system would freeze up. Buffett said it. Everybody said it. I, your humble servant, moi, I, a pathetic person, called Karl Rove and told him, you've got to plead with Mr. Bush to rescue Lehman Brothers. And he said, I'm scared to the Secretary of the Treasury is too scary for me. And I said, you've got to get past that. This has to happen. But the Secretary of the Treasury said, no, we're not going to help them. We're not going to bail them out. The result was a financial catastrophe saved by the fact that Merrill Lynch was bought, and therefore the financial crisis was nowhere near as bad as the Great Depression. And then we had the bank bailouts and TARP, and we were saved from another Great Depression. But we were facing a depression worse than the Great Depression, and the bank bailouts were an incredibly good thing. So there you are, dear Remzo. I hate to break this to you, but you are a very young man. You would not have liked growing up poor.
If companies are too big to fail, shouldn't they be too big to exist?
No, not well. But some of them are already too big to fail.
I'm saying if there's something that the United States government is forced to bail out because it'll destroy our country's economy if it fails, shouldn't we break that up now?
I'd be happy to do it. I like antitrust, and I think it's a great idea to break up these big giant companies. I think especially the big giant media companies and the big giant tech and internet companies should be broken. I completely agree with that.
So Remzo, I brought that up to Ben. What are your thoughts?
I disagree with Ben. I think that was, a collaboration between big business, big banks, and big government. It was almost always inevitable. And I think we're going to see another situation like that very soon within the next couple of years with the rate of inflation at which we're going. Jerome Powell himself with the money printer crank just going burr, 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 printing cash. He's even looking at the monthly inflation rates and he's freaking out. He's like, I didn't know it was going to hit 4% the last 30 days. What we end up doing is we're going to lead to a point, and I brought this up a month ago when I came on, very, very soon, within the next couple of years, we're going to have Republicans running for president and Democrats running for president, who both agree that the best way to clear our trillions and trillions of dollars in debt is to print our way out.
Well, or Remso, my dear friend, I completely agree with you. I don't agree with you about it. That was a bad idea to rescue the bank. That was absolutely essential. But the running of deficits and just having a printing press pay for it was bound to lead to inflation. It had to lead to inflation, just as if you had a train heading towards a brick wall with nothing between the train and air, there's going to be a crash. Obviously, there's going to be inflation. And the way to stop it is going to be not to print more money. They're going to have to raise taxes, unfortunately, and they're going to have to raise interest rates. And all people who borrowed with very low interest rates are going to be upset by it a lot. And the government is going to have to borrow at higher interest rates. And at some point, the government is not going to have not going to be able to do that. And there will have to be national bankruptcy. It has happened before. We are acting as if it's impossible for it to happen, but it has happened in fairly big countries, including Russia and Argentina. It can happen here.
Ken LaCourt.
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
I don't know. I've always found a brilliant guy in look, every year. It can be this guy, it can be that guy. There's always a guy who's predicting the end of our economy.
Right? I don't predict the end of it.
Well, it's predicting the chance that America will go bankrupt and inflation. You don't believe the numbers; they're going high. We're gonna all. And you know, I had a friend who sold all his apartment complexes. He had like 3 or 4 duplexes, and he literally bought physical silver and buried it around the country. He's living on a beach in Mexico now. He used to be a Fox News reporter because 5 years ago he was convinced. And these guys, and you read it, and they all make sense. And they're always, you know, if you're the person who says every space shuttle that goes up, if you're the guy who says it's going to blow up, you know, you're going to be right 1 out of 20 times, 25 times, and then you get on TV and you're a genius. But usually it doesn't. So I don't know.
With the greatest respect, Ken, for you as a friend and colleague, I don't think there's a historical precedent for running deficits of this size and money creation at this level, it has not led to inflation.
But there was always, except for the brief time in the Clinton years, it's like people are like, the stock market's at an all-time high. Well, guess what? Last month it was an all-time high. The month before it was an all-time high. American deficits, and both as a percentage of GDP and absolute numbers, again with the exception of a few years in the Clinton administration, have always been skyrocketing. I'm not smart enough to know whether that's good or bad. What I always know is the party out of power is always bitching about the deficit, and then they win the election, and then they shut up about that, and the other guys bitch about the deficit. So maybe it's hot, maybe it's too much, maybe our PE over this or are overheated, or maybe the quantitative easing is going to keep the stock market going for a long. I don't know.
But we do know that it's not a guess, it's not a prediction. We do know that the rate of inflation has greatly increased in the last few months. So we don't have to guess about that. It's happened.
It's still at lower points than it was all during the 70s and 80s by.
That's true. That is absolutely true.
And let's all, you know, the reason why inflation probably won't take off and get serious is because every president with high inflation has gotten his ass blown out. And every president knows that. And they've got a Ben Stein in there saying, Mr. just insert president's name. If inflation hits 5%, you're fucked and you're getting out of office. So somehow all the QE and the this and the feds and the this and that, they've managed to keep, since Jimmy Carter and then the few kind of adjustment years of Ronald Reagan, inflation to a rate where most people are like, I don't know. And we're kind of at that right now.
You're entirely right, except again, we are facing an unprecedented situation. But I hope you're wrong. I hope you're right. I hope I'm wrong.
Hey, somebody just said in the chat, Ken's good tonight. So there you go. Nothing like a backhanded
Ken is red hot. Ken
Nothing
is,
like a backhanded compliment, but the one
By
thing I will
admitting I'm
say,
stupid and I don't know what's going on.
the
No,
one
Ken
thing,
is red
Ken, the
hot.
one thing I will say in defense of Ben Stein, his prognostications never come from party. It comes from his belief in what he sees. It never has to do with the presidency or who's in charge. And you could look back on him on Cavuto on business for years. Ben always gave the same advice, and we've spoken about this on the show when it came to investing. Invest in the Dow, invest in the spiders. Okay. His opinions have never been about presidencies. It's always been about the way he looks at a situation, which separates Ben as an economist from every other economist. He doesn't have party involved.
So Ben, I'm in a Bogle fund type with most of my investments. You know, most of it being all stock market, a little of it being the international, just in case they've
done well with it.
And my VTI has increased about 8% over the past 2 months. That kind of freaks me out a little bit because that's a yearly increase and that's higher than the average yearly increase in the Dow averaged out over the past 40 years. And that's unsustainable. Do you play around, you as an investor and somebody who's husbanding your resources to both live and pass on to your progeny, do you increase bonds at this level? Do you put some money into cash?
No,
I put a bunch of
don't.
money into cash. I finally just freaked out and I got enough cash to buy stuff.
I at this point in my ancient life, I basically am drawing down all my liquid assets little by little to support my son and his family, among many other people, and also to also have a lot of real estate, really a lot of residential real estate, some commercial real estate, and I'm little by little drawing that down too. But I am not changing my index funds. I'm neither adding, well, I'm subtracting to it to some extent, but I'm basically keeping the. I'll tell you, since we're all pals, most of it's in the spiders. A lot of it, the single largest investment is in a small company here in Southern California called Los Angeles Athletic Club Company, which despite its name actually owns an enormous amount of mini store warehouses and has done so well. No one deserves to have that kind of good fortune.
Did they give a dividend?
What? It pays a tremendously good dividend.
So, okay, I want to get to something that Remzo knows better probably than the rest of us. And we discussed this a couple weeks ago, Remzo. So Bitcoin has taken a 20,000 point drop pretty much in the last week and a half. And what people don't understand, so I want to explain something to people. So if you invest, like Ben says, in the Dow, Remzo, and it goes down 200 points, it doesn't mean you've lost $200 per share per stock, right? With Bitcoin, if it goes down $20,000, Remzo, and you own one Bitcoin, that means you've literally lost $20,000 of value within a week and a half period, all because Elon Musk tweeted something.
And by the way, the head of the Bank of England, who I assume is not an idiot, although maybe he is, but I assume he is not, has said your value, the value of these cryptos is eventually going to be zero, and you should be prepared for that.
Yeah, but you know what? My dad used to say that about stocks.
Well, sir, it was all
right? No, but I mean,
Ken,
look, he was someone who built it with his own hand.
Ken, with the greatest respect, I don't think your dad was the head of the Bank of England.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that the Bank of England head was all that much smarter, though. Because these guys, look, there is a clear age divide with Bitcoins versus not Bitcoins. And
Ken, the reason I went to Remzo is because Remzo's very anti this stuff. And
for his age. For his age.
For his demographic, and Remzo has done a ton, extensive research on this stuff. And that's why I wanted to go to Remzo quickly, because 20,000, Ken, it's very rare for one person to be able to tank the whole market. And Elon Musk,
calling it the whole market, I call it one stock, and that's not rare at all. You get the chairman of the Fed said, "Well, I think we're getting inflation," and all of a sudden, everybody's lost 10% of their money. You get some guy at Bear Stearns saying, "Oh, I like this stock or I don't like this stock." Stocks jump up and down 30% in a week. I see that happen all the time.
Sir, the market has not lost anywhere near 10% of its value in the last few days.
No, it certainly hasn't. It did a year ago.
But Remzo,
What I'm saying is one analyst on the stock in some that nobody knows can come out and say this company has good earnings or bad earnings. That individual stock will rise or fall 10 or 20% easy. We've seen that happen. The fact that it happens in crypto, why should it be different there?
Because there's nothing behind a crypto. Crypto is
So I just want people to understand where I am on this. I'm going to open up my crypto wallet right now. I'm going to show you something. So I'm opening up right now. I'm going to show you how much crypto assets I own right now.
I can't see
Zero. Zero. I own 0 Bitcoin. I own 0 Ethereum. I own 0 Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Monero, Dash, all the crypto. But I will say that I do have some Bitcoin lying around in another digital wallet, which I do not disclose. Well, with that said, you know, with Elon Musk,
you just don't own it on that one phone.
No, they don't need to know. They don't need to know. When we looked at crypto, you know, Ben called it something properly the other day. A lot of it is a tulip craze. I say that about Dogecoin. And for my friends that put thousands of dollars into Dogecoin, I asked them, what does it do? What can it do?
Well,
can you buy a Coke with it?
What do any of them do?
Yeah, so I asked them this, and you have a lot of these other people making these coins and everything else. And the biggest thing is like, what is it really? What is the understanding of what is it actually? And they can't answer that. And here's what I can answer it as. It's a decentralized currency. There's a finite amount. And and it is the money of the people. It transcends borders and banks. It's yours, and it only has value if you and I perceive it to have value. There's a blockchain that allows it to be a public ledger. You can't fake it. All these other coins, they barely even have that. A lot of them don't even work. But here's what I do have to say, and I completely lost track. Shoot. Judah, what was the question?
I don't remember, but Ken's getting, I'm so focused on Ken.
Here's my point. Bitcoin is treated by most traders as an asset, a security. The IRS taxes it as securities. If you donate Bitcoin or other crypto to a nonprofit, it's treated as like you're gifting stock. Because we don't understand it, one, and because we don't treat it the way it is, that's why you're always going to see these massive dips and these massive gains, these pump and dump schemes. It's because it is a currency that we treat as anything but that.
And on that note, Ken LaCourte, it brings a brilliant point.
I think that's largely right. I would say that Bitcoin is a potential currency. Look, they're all assets to whatever that means. All right. And I'll never forget going into one billionaire's house, and he pointed at some painting that my 7-year-old daughter could have painted. And he was like, that painting I bought for $12 million, it's worth $22 million today. And I was like, okay, that's, so why that should be worth something and a Bitcoin shouldn't be, that there's no reason for that. And it's what Remso said, it's the perceived value of it. I think that a couple of them have a potential of being a future currency. The thing that
I want to ask Ken this real fast, Judah. Sure. Ken, what cryptos are you looking at?
Oh, so look, I got in early. I made about $750,000 just because my son, who was 20, said, hey, buy some of this shit. I put $15,000 in 8 years ago. It turned into $750,000. And I've got 50,000 just left in Bitcoin. I think all the other ancillary coins is all crap, and that's all bullshit. But I do think that there's a potential that BTC itself turns into a worldwide currency. And that's why I just held on to $50,000 worth. It could be worth several $100,000 in the future. That wouldn't shock me at all. Could one of those other little ones break out and become that? Ethereum has some other good things. Some of them, then you're arguing at the technical level, the way when you hear a PHP programmer screaming at a C programmer. I don't understand the ease of transfer, the ease of discovery, the usage requirements. I mean, there's a lot of back end things. There's one. What's the one that's actually truly anonymous? Bitcoin.
Monero.
Excuse me.
Monero.
So Monero's got another interesting potential turning into something because.
Okay. This you realize like my God, what we're talking about right now sounds like the most convoluted cockeyed stuff. And I'm not saying this is somebody that
go
doesn't.
to Wall Street and put money on a futures option on something that doesn't exist.
You're right. And if you looked at somebody like Ben Stein, he would say to you, you're nuts for doing certain things.
I'm very happy that my friend Ken LaCourte made so much money on it. I'm delighted.
Yeah, we're all very happy.
But I'm out now. I lost it all. Don't get me wrong.
And that's the house vote. But
I lost it all on doing a startup trying to fix the media.
But what's great? Can I tell you something? What's great, Ken?
Asset to the United States of America, and I wish he made $750 million.
I just want to tell you something, Ken. What's great tonight is you're either getting shut up or you're great. So there's nothing better. There's no better compliment than somebody saying shut up or keep going, Ken. And on that note, if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to that man, Benjamin Jeremy Stein. We were getting a crash course in economics, and it is fun by America's teacher, America's professor, Ben Stein. Remzo, can you please tell people where they can find us?
Go ahead and find us across Al Gore's amazing internet on YouTube, Rumble, Apple Podcasts. If it's there in either audio or video, or you can hang out with us live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And please, if you need more Ben Stein in your life, benstein.substack.com. That's benstein.substack.com.
I want to welcome everybody back to the world. Sorry, Remza?
Buy the dip, buying the Bitcoin.
I don't want to welcome everybody back to The World According to Ben Stein. And I want to bring something up, Ben, and I want to get back into this a little bit more. But this sort of, and I get it. We don't know, and Ken raises the point too. I get it. We don't always trust the people, Ben, who run the economy. We don't trust people on Wall Street. We're taught all these things. But when it comes to Bitcoin and these things, it sort of reminds me, Ken, and I could be really wrong, and it could be a horrific analogy, and I apologize if I offend anybody. It sounds like you're getting bootleg drugs. Okay? It sounds like we have no idea who's everybody gives. But Ben was around at a time when there was a drug called Quaaludes that was produced, that was supposedly the greatest drug in the world, but was made but was FDA approved and was made in a lab. Right now, we have miners. If you said to most people about Bitcoin, Ben, well, there are people mining the Bitcoin, and nobody knows. I am convinced if you went up to 85% or 90% of the people that are invested in Bitcoin, Ben, and you said to them, yeah, people in Yugoslavia are running a mining farm, they would have, and they'd be like, yeah, they would have no idea how to explain what you're talking about.
Well, I can summarize it in several ways. One, I'm absolutely overjoyed that my friend Ken made lots of money on Bitcoin. I'm just overjoyed for him. And I hope whatever he did with it, I hope he enjoyed it. Second, if people like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger say it's worthless, I'll go with them. Third, I've never yet had anyone explain to me why, at the end of the day, it has any value except because of the hope and superstition of the people who are playing with it, which same is true of all fads. But since my friend Ken has some, I hope it does great.
But Ken, can you explain to me, as somebody that's an investor in it, what a miner is?
Sure. Miners are looking for unique numbers. There are algorithms that they can run to find very, very unique numbers. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. And so they put big computers that they put electricity into, and that's freaked out some people, that crunch this stuff and hope to do that. In the process of doing that, they also help, they physically help support the entire backbone of the whole structure. So the whole structure of, look, Bitcoin, it comes down to another technology that I won't get into now, but there's some interesting technology at the base of it. The ability to say we can verify a transaction. To think of the Bitcoin ecosphere in a weird way. It's built on, Remzo, what are the words I'm forgetting? What's the
blockchain?
The blockchain. The blockchain is a fascinating technology. And to do it very simply, I don't want to turn to an economics lesson. Think of it as if we were playing a game of poker.
He said, believe me, this isn't an economics lesson.
If we were playing a game of poker and there was no person who was in charge of the game. And each one of us kept notes on who won which hand, and that there would be electronic ways, because there'd be an advantage to telling the truth, electronic ways to see if Remso said, oh no, I won that third hand that he didn't. That's the kind of very, very basic understanding of what blockchain is. It's kind of a distributed way of checking information against itself. And whether that information is baseball scores or that information is a financial transaction, there's a lot of other things besides Bitcoin that the blockchain will do for us.
So you still didn't get to what
Earth. Spaceship Earth.
But again, it's like, you guys say this shit, but then it's like, I know enough about the stock market to know that it's all built on bullshit. All right.
No, it isn't all. It isn't all.
Well, Ben, please
you look at the
respond to that.
valuation. You look at the valuations of these companies that are on Wall Street. It is silly world. You've got, recently there was one company that was a $1.5 billion net worth on it, and they owned one sandwich shop in New Jersey.
Well, that I agree.
It was an anomaly. But you look at every company. You look at News Corp. You look, you want to have something to explain intangible assets on somebody's balance sheets.
Intangible assets are not that hard to explain. They are assets that are not physical assets, but they produce revenue. Look,
no, they don't produce revenue. They're made up numbers that somebody can say the goodwill of Fox News is somehow worth $1 billion. Therefore, my company is this.
Sir, with all due respect, if you take the 30 Dow Jones Industrial Companies, they produce an enormous amount of earnings for their stockholders, absolutely gigantic, not hypothetical.
Ponzi schemes produce revenue for their people too.
What do?
Ponzi schemes produce revenue for their people.
They do for a few years or months.
Well, or they do it when the government is prompting them up with quantitative easing.
No, sir. If you love it, God bless you. And as I say,
I don't love it. I just think that it's
a huge asset to the show, and I hope you make $750 million. And
I actually don't love it, and I don't love any of this stuff. I just think that the stock market is largely full of crap, and this one is full of crap plus 30%. And I find it ironic that all the traditional stock guys are like, oh my God, I can't believe this and that, when their house of cards is just kind of a different shade than the whole Bitcoin.
Ken, I simply, by the way, what's funny about this whole thing is I simply asked you a question of if you could tell me what a miner was. And 5 minutes later, it took
a miner is somebody who has a computer that looks for very rare numbers.
Okay.
And then when they discover one of those numbers, makes money.
Remso, feel free to jump in at any point as we're running out of time.
Bitcoin is real.
But you have none.
I've none on that wallet.
But Ben, this is it's again, listen, if you're going to invest in something, remember, do it at your own risk. That was one of my favorite things that you used to say, Ben, on Cavuto on Business. You didn't want to give people stock tips because you didn't want them to lose money on something.
Right. Remso is a dear, wonderful friend and asset to this show and to the whole country. I hope with his secret other Bitcoin wallet, he makes lots of money. I hope that Ken makes lots of money. I have a very good friend who sold me my most recent car, and I happen to love that car a lot. He's in these cryptos. I hope he makes lots of money. I hope everybody who's in it makes lots of money. But I think it's a fraud. But
is that the Audi 8?
What?
Is that the Audi 8?
Yeah, S8, yes.
I will say this about crypto real fast for everybody. I never put money into crypto that I'm not willing to lose. So if you go in there, absolutely understand it could go to zero, but you know what you're getting into. And like with anything else, when it comes to investing, savings, whatever, whether it's a stock market or crypto, if you're gonna put money into it, know what it is.
Yeah, like 95% of those coins are gonna blow up to zero.
And here's the biggest thing, Ben. I want to get back to this. I asked Ken a question. I love your honesty, Ken, and I love your answer. But Ben, these are questions people do ask when they invest. When you buy a car, you ask what's under the hood. To people that are investing in crypto, ask what's under the hood. Understand what you're investing in.
You can't though.
You can't.
No, you just can't. They say shit, but it's like,
Bitcoin is the
you know,
only
again, I also
thing
read,
that
I also read this prospectuses coming out from Wall Street companies. I mean, it's like, you know, I invest in a lot of junky kind of biotech firms, and reading their stuff, it's like reading CNN. They're making stuff up left, right, and center. I'll give you sentences from companies that are worth several $100 million that you couldn't tell me what they meant. But it's fine.
Well, again, Ken, you are a pleasure to work with week after week, month after month. I hope you get to be terribly rich from this.
I hope so too.
But again, I suggest to everybody, please look under the hood of whatever it is. You know, when you go to the doctor, you like to know a little bit of his experience. If you are putting your life savings into anything, it is imperative. It is, I beg of you, please look under the hood. So that way, if something should tank, at least you knew. Or at least you had an idea. I beg of you, please find out what a minor is, find out all of these different things, and then invest wisely. Don't take your credit cards and put your life savings into something that you're not. It could be a stock too, Ken. Okay, I'm not just talking about crypto. It could be anything. I beg of you to do your due diligence. And on that note, I want to thank everybody that's been chatting in the live stream. Ken, you're either getting loved tonight or you're getting hated, and I say that's what makes us great.
That's great.
Is the discourse we're having, but on that note, Remzo, please tell people where they could find us.
Apple Podcasts, Google, Stitcher Play for the audio version of the show every day after we go ahead and air here live on YouTube. And please, if you're watching YouTube and attacking YouTube, you can go to Rumble, where it's not always great, but at least it's not YouTube. Good night. That's all I've got.
Oh, great news. And
Good
Ken
line.
brought this
I
up
like
on
that.
Media Action Network. Peter Thiel, right, is investing in Rumble right now. So that's great news. And so is
And he wants to lose money too. Oh.
And but also you can find Ken LaCourte, MediaActionNetwork.com, punching back against the liberal left and punching back against the media. But of course, you can find Ben Stein on spectator.org. You could also find him on Parler at Ben Stein. And of course, like Remzo said, on Rumble, where Ben does post 30-second little snippet, fun videos that we don't post on YouTube. So please go to Rumble, sign up, subscribe, because you get little 30 seconds of Ben. Who doesn't want 30 seconds of Ben Stein?
I want 60 seconds.
And on that note, I want to thank everybody. We'll see you Saturday night. Ben, would you like to take us out?
What is love? 5 feet of heaven in a ponytail, the cutest ponytail that sways with a wiggle when she walks.